Hello and welcome to another episode of Design Tips and Sips. I'm Anna Gibson with AKG Design Studio, and this is our show, Design Tips and Sips, where we share design tips and some sips. No sips today. We had our coffee earlier, and on this show, we provide information about home, wellness, health, and anything that has to do for you to build your beautiful life. So today we are very lucky. We are at Lutron, and this is their very secret design center here in DC. And I'm here with Jason, the manager of the showroom. And we are excited to talk to you about all about lighting on automation. So I think that one of the biggest things that's happening in the world right now, especially with the LED coming, but in technology in general, lighting has such a big impact over our life. We talked about a lot about biophilic design. Yeah. So the impact of lighting and how, at least in earlier day, and even now for most people, light really messes us up, right? Mm-hmm, because it really destroys our circadian rhythm. Back in the day, we used to wake up in the morning, when the sun was rising, 5 o'clock, go for your run,
yeah,
go,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And then go to sleep once the candle was burning, right? So you had just enough light to finish reading your book, dinner, and go to sleep. And right now, unless we're out in nature, camping, we lose that rhythm. And that's why we see a lot of places that, people are suffering issues with sleeping.
Yeah,
and that.
Absolutely.
And then lighting has such a big impact on our life. People don't really realize that. And there's different reason why lighting, like when you go to hospital or high energy places where there's a lot of lights, or like even in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
So like you have all these like lights and everything, but there's no windows. So you lose that sense of what time of the day. I always say that, because we go a lot of Vegas, right, for K-Biz, not for gambling, for our shows. And I always I'm never jet lagged there because I don't know what time of the day it is anyway.
Yeah.
So it's it's so crazy. So tell me a little bit about Lutron.
So Lutron, a privately held company. We've been around since 1961. We were founded. We actually invented the first in-wall solid-state rotary dimmer, and I'm sure I'm doing this little twisting.
Everybody had
it. It's sort of ubiquitous with lighting control. Especially when I was growing up, we had one dimmer to one chandelier, and it was incandescent. So what we did was we were able to kind of appreciably control light in the home and sort of create ambiance. And in a lot of ways, we do the same thing we've always done. We create space through light, and we create feeling through light. We just get to do it with better products, better technology, and more impactful technology. And really this idea of lighting coming full circle, and you were talking about this, that since the beginning of time, we've been sort of enlightened by natural light that follows that black body curve of light. And so really it's only been in the last, since 1886 that we've been able to leverage electric light. Once again, though, still very similar light, natural light, sun being, light derived from heat, but also incandescent bulbs, being, light derived from heat. And what's interesting, it follows that same black body curve of light, because what we're doing, especially with an incandescent bulb, we're, heating a tungsten, and it's heating up, and as it's heating up, the light changes. So if you dial it, all the way up, it becomes very cool and bright and invigorating. If you turn it all the way down, it becomes sort of orangey and sort of warm and cozy feeling. And so what we have been able to do is recreate the color conditions, the qualities of light in LEDs that are reminiscent of a more incandescent experience. And in a lot of ways, bringing that full circle, light matters. Light impacts how we feel. I always say light informs space, space informs how we feel. If you don't like the way you feel, maybe change the lighting. And what we're able to do through lighting and automation is give people the levers of control that they can actually choose how they want to live. So if you are, sort of inspired by beautiful, vibrant, natural light, well, that you can have that too. If you like that warm feeling, in a corner on a chair reading a book and in a nice warm color temperature, you can do that as well. And what we've been able to do is sort of create lights that follow that full black body curve of light from 1400 Kelvin, which is the light of a single candle, all the way to 10,000 Kelvin, which is the light of a harvest full moon.
That's good. And the important thing, it's also very important for the design, because a lot of time people are like, my favorite not. People post picture on like, oh, what color should I choose for my walls? And they, post some random pictures of their home. And I'm like, I don't know what your light quality in your house, because I can recommend 5 colors but I don't know what light you have. I don't know, are you using 27, 3000, 5000? Because even the amount of kelvins that you have in your light are going to impact how that color is going to look and how bright is going to look.
Exactly.
So right now we're sitting in pretty bright colors. So this white looks very, very white. But if we change it to more of the 27, the lowers, the warmers, that white is no longer going to be looking that white.
A great scene to show you that, where we do the full spectrum of tunable colors, color coordinated temperatures, and you can actually see by looking at the shades how different the different color temperatures inform that space or create a different experience when you look at them. And it's very interesting that really light does drive so much of how we feel within the space, and not just in how we feel, but also the ability to communicate, And once again, we'll walk through a series of scenes, and we have a scene with very sort of bright lights, sort of creating these pools of white light on the table. And interestingly enough, they're sort of drawing people's eyes to the table. And it's sort of this idea of not only telling people where they should sit, but also how to be. And it sort of creates this element of psychological safety in a space that lighting goes beyond this binary relationship where we're just flipping on a switch to find our way. It's about enhancing our life. It's about really creating spaces of refuge and sanctuary, not how we all define it, but how we individually define it.
Absolutely. And it's also about the layering of the light, right? So
Absolutely.
We have the overhead light, we have the chandelier next to us. So there's different points of light in the room when we're creating the design, and we're working with materials like Lutron that we can create, like you said, different scenes and different opportunities. So you don't always have to have the overhead light. You don't always have to have the chandelier or the night light, and just really create different opportunities to layer the lighting. It enhances and changes the design completely.
Absolutely. And we actually have technology that allows us to enhance how we experience, natural materials or, artwork or, flowers or fruit or whatever you'd like, to be able to sort of showcase and illuminate, to be able to kind of decide what are the things that you want to showcase in your home, to be able to do it in as much personal attention that you paid in purchasing and acquiring, the things in your home. You can actually apply that same sort of intentionality to how people are experiencing and how you're experiencing it. People tell us they are really enjoying lighting that's fully dynamic because it just makes them feel better. And at the end of the day, in your home, what more could you ask for?
Absolutely. And light is also very therapeutic. So that's not a Lutron product, but when we do the Color Spa, the Anthem One and other products out there, now they do have built-in lights in the showers, and you can actually change the different colors, depends on the mood. So if you want to be really invigorated, you can change it to blue. If you're ready to slow down for the night, you can change it to red and purple. So there's a whole theory over, how therapeutic light can be. And if we can bring it to your spaces, whether it's your bedroom or, like you said, like that little corner where you want to sit and read, if you have that really harsh overhead light that we have right now, it's probably not going to be that cozy little corner that...
Exactly. And it's funny because we have, hospital administrators that will tell us that being able to access full spectrum tunable lighting, what people call circadian lighting, really sort of helps in sort of the healing process. But also, in terms of, what our administrators tell us of memory care facilities and nursing homes, we're able to achieve lighting levels that really have a positive impact on people's overall well-being. lighting. I mean, it's the difference between having falls and not having falls. Just being able to have light that finds your way in the middle of the night without having to call somebody or flip a switch that automatically sort of enlightens a path. We also know, in terms of being able to modulate for mood, there's been a lot of research, Health and Light Institute out of Mount Sinai Hospital, the Mayo Clinic. And we also know that to be able to really achieve that biophilic experience, to be able to thin the line between indoor space and outdoor space, having the human experience so closely aligned to the natural world, not only just feels good, there's been a lot of research that says that the human experience is enhanced by having that sort of access to the natural world or the qualities of the natural world.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the demo, so what are some of, because for the people that are not familiar with Lutron, so other than the most beautiful wall plates,
yes.
which is, if you ever done a project with me, it's a must. The Decora wall plate, the screwless, the biggest invention for sliced bread. I'm like, I love it. I love that. Hate those cheap plates. So are those beautiful switches, which probably most people are familiar with. Let's talk a little bit about the different products that you guys offer.
So in this space, we have our Ketra, which is our human-centered lighting sort of line of lighting. It's being operated here on our Homeworks operating system. And this is sort of the latest and greatest. This is the bleeding edge of human-centered lighting. We can achieve, anywhere from 1400 Kelvin all the way to 10,000 Kelvin, like I said. And we can also automate, in a way with advanced logic. Our shading is tied to a technology called natural light optimization. So when you are automating, you don't have to make choices that, at 3 o'clock I want my shades to come down, or when the sun's at a certain level to come down. What we do is we just sort of set it and forget it, and it's following the trajectory of the sun. So if, for example, you have an eastern exposure, an eastern facade, as that sun is cresting over the skyline, as soon as it's making contact with the window, that shade knows to go down to a certain level. And as that sun moves overhead, the shades will come up and, say, for example, if you have a northern exposure, a northern facade, when that sun hits that facade, it will know to deploy, to kind of allow you to have the comfort without having to make the choice. And it's funny because I think at the end of the day, we just want to be comfortable in our spaces. And without automation, we know that people don't make those changes, on a behavioral level, quickly. So how long are you willing to really sit in that discomfort to be able to, before you make that choice? So we just allow people to be more comfortable in the environment. So we do, obviously this is the product line in the space, but we have product levels that meet the needs of all of our customers, from entry level, through our Caseta, to our medium, our medium tier product line with Radio Raw 3. Also have a full line of commercial products as well. Really the ability, what we do is we provide lighting and controls, and we provide the expertise that people can live and work better in the built environment. And more importantly, for example, not just to be able to achieve, design intentionality or design objectives, but also, we have, wonderful standards in terms of sustainability, achieving those sustainable strategies, but also, standards around well-being. What is the proper healthy light level for a given task? Not only do we know that through research now, but we also have the ability through technology to dial in exactly what's optimal for a given task.
Absolutely. And health and wellness is really important for our clients and for everybody. And I think even, again, in the last several years, especially after we've been stuck at home after COVID for so long, I think it became even more heightened because we spend so much time at home. A lot of people still work from home. So again, you did not have your light in your family room, dining room, wherever you're working, optimized for you to work, right? So now there's a lot of changes that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And even in the bathroom, like what is the lighting that you are walking into in the morning? Remember years ago, and I'm not saying how many, but it was many years ago, far away land. I just went I painted my bathroom yellow, don't ask, long time ago. And
I had a yellow kitchen once.
There you go. Everybody had a yellow room at some point. But I went with the manufacturer recommendation for the light bulbs. and over the vanity, and they were like 60 watts. So I had 120 watt on each light. So the first morning that I walked in there, I was like, oh my God, this was just...
It's really not a great way to start the day when you're being scared by yourself,
Right,
you know?
yes.
Like nobody wants to start that day that
Not
way.
only I scared myself on the brightness between the yellow and the amount of light. So that's, you know, and we always talk about that how the bathroom is the first place you walk in the morning, the last place you leave. For, you know, many people, you know, do their makeup in the bathroom. So having the correct light, you know, around you.
Or another way, you know, let's say that you're having an event in the evening and you're deciding on an outfit and makeup. Wouldn't it be great if you could dial in the color temperature of the time of day, the time of evening that the event is, so you can kind of make choices based on what the environmental
That's a great
conditions
idea.
are. Isn't that
Yes,
cool?
absolutely.
We get a lot of people doing that, and it's interesting. You talk about, going back to a second, talking about well-being. You know, it's obvious. A lot of people come here because they're building beautiful homes, sanctuaries and places of refuge, and we're enhancing that experience. But you know what we've seen over the last couple of years is a lot of people that have folks in their family that are either have pain conditions or chronic illness or, you know, neurodivergent. They're also doing their own research and they're saying, hey, this matters to them, and they're raising their hand, they're coming in here and they're finding solutions that meet their needs as well. And then this ability to have this full spectrum tunability, the ability to have flexible and adaptive environments, it really matters to people. And it's not just about making things beautiful. There's a real enhancement of quality of life. And that's what excites me most.
Yeah. And actually, you know, the automation is also me being my worst enemy. But you're absolutely right about the automation, because I did get a shade for one shade that was automated. And the reason I got it was because it was in the back of a bay window in my house. Yes, it was automated, it was connected, but I never actually put it on any schedule.
Exactly.
So I'm like, okay, good thing that it's on, like, it's automated. Nobody's ever using it.
I read a study that without automation, you know, 80% of the time shades go unmoved. And here you have this amazing technology and you have the ability to live in a more comfortable environment. But inertia it stands in the way of us deploying it in a way that's going to appreciably sort of create that quality of life.
But if it's already set up for you, you have all the program left, and that shade would have like closed, let's say at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for lighting and for more privacy. That would have been fantastic, but honestly, I never touched it, because I'm like, the point of like doing one more thing, of going and pressing the button, or even talking to Alexa or whatever you have on your wall to do it, it's just one more thing that you need to do.
One more thing amongst many other things that we have to do in a day. And yes, you know, listen, can we survive with all this? Absolutely. But I think we want to do more than just survive in our homes. And it gives us the ability to thrive in our sense of sense of place and placemaking. And, you know, when you walk through the door, the threshold of your home, there's that exhale. This just enhances that experience.
That's awesome. So, all right. So we're going to do a little demo.
I think we should go on a journey.
Perfect. All right. So where should we start?
Why don't we move to the table over here?
Okay.
That's good. And we can walk, and we can just sort of go through our series of 26 scenes and hopefully be blown away by the groovy light that we have.
Fantastic. Excellent. So one more, I guess, little thing before we move. So you guys provide, not you directly, but you provide the experience, you help people create the design and understanding, and then work with designers like me to make sure that we explain what is going to be in every space. And then we have what we call technology implementers, a lot of the local AV
integrators,
specifier are now doing that. And those are the people that are going to come and actually run everything for you. And if you're doing a remodel, this is the time. There's a lot of wireless things, but if you are already doing a remodel and your walls are bare and you're running electricity, this is really the time to get it done now, to have everything.
The sooner the better is what we say. Especially, if we can get it before the walls and the drywall are going, we just have many more choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we don't have to cut your drywall twice.
And nobody likes that. Never makes anybody happy.
No. All right, Jason, let's go on the road. All right. So on this one, the color temperature stays the same, but what are we changing here?
What we're doing is, and I'll talk you through it, but really what we're doing is, so we have, each one of these lights has 16 LEDs, 4 green, 4 blue, 4 red, 4 white. And what we're doing is pulling back on that white light. We're allowing RGB to sort of interact with other light colors. And what's happening is you get a greater depth of field, a greater color saturation. You're actually seeing it, in my opinion, in a more natural way. So if you go here, this is 4400 Kelvin at 100% output with a direct beam spread. And you look at this, and this is great quality light, but you don't realize what you don't realize until you get to see it in another light.
Right, so and then if you go to like the big box store, if you ask for a 4400 Kelvin, we would have been blinded right now.
Oh, completely.
The light output would have been like you walk into a hospital.
Because we have this at a lower output. It's just, the rendering of light is just such a better quality, but where it gets really crazy is, so what we're doing here is the same thing. So we've deployed this technology in most of the major art museums in the country. And so really what we're doing is we're able to dial in exactly the way that we would like something to look. So for example, if we wanted to, we could actually recreate the color conditions that the artists created their artwork in. I love the fact that if you look on the right-hand painting, you can actually see that the orange was painted after the green. So let me go through, we'll just walk through the rest of this layer.
So so that's like we talked about again, like the wall looks totally orangey right now.
And look over here, this looks purpley.
Right.
And I love that.
And it's all in one light bulb. And that's what you and I were talking about, that back in the day, or if you go to a regular big box store, you just can't do that. You will have a specific light bulb for a specific task. Yeah. And you cannot change it. And here, you really can run the whole circadian rhythm, the full spectrum from the morning when you wake up and you have that soft light, all the way to that energetic sun in the middle of the sky in the middle of the day, until as we go back into the morning time, evening time, when we're trying to relax and come down. And maybe that's a night that you're actually hosting a party, so you can kind of roll it back and bring all the vibes back out.
Or for example, what I love is like during the fall, when we're falling back and we're all of a sudden, we don't have that light after dinner.
Right.
We can actually extend that day an additional 2 hours. So when that time change does take place, it's not a shock, and you're actually acclimating yourself to the time change and the change of color temperature.
That's a good way to do that, because so many people, especially this year, I don't know, but were complaining that they were feeling jet lagged.
I get that every year. I mean, people talk about, but really, like, now that I've actually had this technology deployed, I actually feel the difference. It's not as drastic. I'm less tired. I'm less irritable. I'm able to fall asleep. I have better quality of sleep. It really does make a difference.
So we have the layered light experience that we talked about earlier. So this light is now much softer. It's no longer beaming on our heads. As earlier, we were having kind of like maybe a dinner party. We needed a little bit more energetic plans. And now I'm just sitting here with my coffee. The lights are soft. I have the little side light here as well. So I can definitely chill here with my cup of tea and my book for the rest of the evening, versus before that, it was definitely much more vibrant and not cozy. So the light totally changed this room completely.
Just being able to kind of recreate and curate how you want to feel within a space, utilizing light, utilizing shading, to be able to kind of account for these things. I also like this idea that by utilizing shading, by deploying shading, we actually can really feel what's happening in terms of the lighting control. Because if the shades were up, none of this would matter. It would all look
Right,
the
because
same.
the sun and whatever's going on in the street would have been beaming straight and just
Exactly.
like destroying everything immediately.
This idea, our company was founded on the premise that we really, through lighting, we can create the way we want to feel within the space. And so we were founded, our company was founded in 1961, predicated on the invention of the very first in-home, in-wall rotary solid state
Dial,
rotary,
yep.
rotary, solid state rotary dimmer.
Yeah.
And we were able to control one light with one dimmer. And that was what got us started into the marketplace and was interesting. And I love this idea that when we first started out, we actually sold our products into high-end department stores. This idea that lighting is a lifestyle choice rather than through hardware stores or electrical distribution. This idea that it's a personal choice and you should buy it where you're making other personal lifestyle choices. And I love the idea of just being able to look at the juxtaposition, that going from that single rotary dimmer to, for example, a Pico that I'm pressing here that I can, access 26 scenes. I can control not just a room, not just a zone, but a whole entire home. It's just the magnitude by which we're able to.
And I have to say,
Yeah.
I absolutely love this.
Yeah.
This is a tiny little thing. Because one of the biggest things that I think most of the people are scared about technology is because it's complicated, it's cumbersome.
Oh.
I've seen systems that have like a whole iPad on the wall and they're like, what happened if it breaks? I don't know what to touch. I don't know what to do. And the fact that all you gotta do is have that tiny little remote, and most of the time you don't even need to use it because it's already pre-programmed.
We have touch screens and we have phones. So basically what we like to say is that we can curate your day-to-day experience. And if you want any bit of customization, you have access to a touch screen. And our whole belief is that it's got to be a simple interface. So if you're looking at a touch screen or a touchpad or a keypad for more than 3 seconds trying to figure out what's going on, it's way too long.
Correct. Yep.
And so this idea, we're moving more from a zone perspective to a scene perspective. So, a room should have, 3, 4, 5 different scenes at the very most, because we just want to keep it simple. The ability to interface, and you're right, I love this product. This is my absolute favorite product. It's called Pico. I always call this the journey of 100 hands. So we manufacture, products, lighting and lighting controls. And so we manufacture this particular product in Pennsylvania. And every single time somebody picks this up along the manufacturing line, they actually have to press the buttons just to make sure that the integrity of that button press has been maintained. In addition, we also end of the line and middle of the line tests. And I always like to say that 100 people have touched this Pico before it gets out. Kind of gross, but you get the point.
Yes.
The idea is the customer experience is the most important thing to us. And so the ability to kind of control light seamlessly from one scene to the next, the ability to create ambiance, and really at the end of the day to be able to bring us back to that place of natural light. And just to kind of put it in perspective, we've been enlightened, no pun intended, by natural light for thousands of years, since the beginning of time. And it's really only been in the last 130 years that we've been able to leverage, electric light. And of that, it's only been in the last 15 to 20 years that we've been, fully, relying on LED lights. And so the ability to kind of recreate the color conditions, the quality of light that we achieve through incandescence and natural light, we're able to bring kind of full circle back into the built environment through LEDs.
Absolutely. And also the cost of all that went down significantly in the last several years. I remember when I went to design school in 2009 and they brought us one of the very first LED recessed light, and it was still a big box, and I think it was back then it was $80 for one recessed light, and you had to tear up the whole ceiling to install them, and it was just one light and 1 Kelvin, and that's what you got. And we're not that far, we're 20 years now. You have
it happened so fast.
Tiny little lights, beautiful things that no longer, you don't have to tear up the whole ceiling completely.
No.
You have million colors in one little recessed light and you can really control it from everywhere around the world, not even just from that little remote.
And it's interesting because we have this simplicity, but we have also a far greater imprint of functionality as well. So just to kind of give you an example of what the technology in this space is. So we have our sort of bleeding edge human-centered lighting, our Ketra light sources being operated on our homework system. And not, unlike a traditionally wired, environment, we don't have, 6 wires coming from each light source down to a switch leg, down to a dimming panel. Here we have just a single wire daisy chaining, providing electricity and power to each light source. No switch legs, no dimming panels, no sort of home runs, just simplicity and ease. And that not just gives us the ability to kind of achieve wireless control and individual addressability, but also provides that simplicity of ownership. Because if there is an issue, and there shouldn't be an issue, but if there is, you're looking through one wire versus a group of 6, and just the ability to have that versatility. So let's say, I'm sure this never happens with your end users, but they never change from the original design. But on the off chance that they do, I could move this shelving unit to that wall and those paintings over here. I can move this table over here and that coffee table over here. And I could do that without ripping out any drywall. All I'd have to do is reprogram the lights. The ability to have that.
Or more often, they actually just decided to change the, come 10 years down the road, they decided to change that from this beautiful wood to maybe some stark black or,
I love that example.
Like totally different color than the original design. But you don't need to change all the lighting around the house. You just need to reprogram. So now you have totally different color scheme for that room without changing.
I love that example. And that's really at the crux of what we do. It's funny. So I had a father and son builder that came in here about 1.5 years ago. Son was super excited by the technology. Father, not so much. And they do build some of the most beautiful homes in our area. And it's interesting, as we were sort of progressing through this demo, I see the father starting to smile a little bit. And at the end of the demonstration, he comes to me and goes, "You guys do not sell lighting control. You guys sell the levers of control that allow us to live in our homes better."
Absolutely.
And honestly, I really like that definition, because really what we're doing is providing the ability and the opportunity to be able to exercise choice and greater customization, to really not just curate beautiful environments, but to create spaces that are places of refuge, places of sanctuary, places that are meaningful to you specifically based on the choices that you've made. And that to me, that's what a home should be.
Absolutely. And as designers, we love our spaces to be customized and personalized for our clients. And I do feel that if you are working, not to that example, but if you are working just with a general contractor, and you're just like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and you think that you know what you're doing, and that happens a lot, which is, it's fine. But the lighting, a lot of the times, is what falls in the wayside, because you're just gonna create a full runway of recessed light and put a couple of under cabinet light and call it a day. And
lighting
that
is the one thing that we use every single day.
Yes.
And it's funny, because I often hear from designers and folks that work helping people build and create spaces that are beautiful, is that people spend so much time on things like an oven or a range or appliances that they may or may not use maybe once or twice a week, and those become the focal point of our attention.
Right.
But in reality, light has an influence on all of this. I always say light influences space, space influences how we feel.
Yeah, and that's why we love using system like Lutron, because we can create that customized, bespoke opportunities and lifestyle for our client very easily.
Yeah, I mean, there's the ability to, what you do very well is listen to your customers, and you're bringing their vision to life. This gives you greater specificity in terms of the tools that you're working with, specifically around light, but also sort of how we experience other materials and the entirety of the built environment, and really as the sort of the emissary that allows that vision to really come through. And so I love this scene. And so what I love about it is it's this element of, combining lighting with automation, and it gives the ability to live in a way that sort of creates some predictability to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if we walked into this space right now, we'd know exactly where to sit. And by the choices that we've made through lighting, we'd not only know exactly where to sit, we'd also know exactly how to sit. So here we are, we've got a cool, color temperature. We have sort of a very direct beam spread, sort of creating these pools of white light on the table, bringing our eyes to the table, bringing our eyes to one another. And it's sort of telling us, hey, you're gonna sit at this table and we're gonna engage. You're not gonna sit on your phone and do your own solitary thing. We're gonna engage, we're gonna connect. And so in a lot of ways,
even the rest of the room is kind of like, it's dim.
Exactly.
So even the lights at the couch are now off. So it's not inviting you to go sit on the couch.
Exactly.
It's automatically pushing you to sit here. Like if I just walked in here, I would knew automatically to sit here because that's where it's lit.
I love the idea of using automation as a way to communicate with the people and the occupants. It creates a level of psychological safety for your guests. It creates sort of a continuity of how you utilize the space. And it also demarcates one function to the next. So for example, like I said, this light here is telling us to sit here and engage. But if I were to sort of lower that color temperature a little bit, warm it up, and lower the light level over here on the couch, that's telling us a totally different thing. Once again, it's telling us exactly.
Right. For me now, it's time to move with the coffee to there, right?
I love this, and I love this on so many different levels, because really what we're able to do is create the multiplicity of spaces within the same space. And so, I don't know about you, but like, in terms of how we live in our homes post-pandemic, there's a lot of complexity being placed on space. We expect more from our space now, and this allows that versatility. It allows us to be flexible, adaptive within the space, being able to conjure different feelings at different times.
I think we were talking a lot about hosting and the main area, but even if you have younger kids, and instead of like giving them a bath in this harsh, regular light at night, when you're trying to calm them down, if you have a smoother light, dimmer light a little bit, that whole routine of getting them to bed, it's already, instead of having this bright light that is literally just energizing them to like keep going, you just like, even if I'm thinking like as the tub bath time is going, dim the light to the point that like, when you're about ready to towel them, like it is.
I love where you're going on this. And
dark, not dark, but just enough that like, okay, this is now our calm time. This is relaxed time. And then you're taking them to the room where they have, again, very light, soft light, just enough to read that one book. All these endorphins are already like slowing down versus, we're really just working against us when we have all that light in the bathroom and like getting them all jazzed up when you're trying to put them to bed.
We're trying to get them here and the light's taking them over here.
Yeah.
And so I love that example because, and we'll see this in a minute, but this system itself is changing constantly throughout the day. It's mimicking the light of day. It's tied to what's called an astronomical clock that allows us to know the angle of the sun at any given address at any given time.
That is so cool.
Globally. So what we're doing is throughout the day, mimicking that light of day. And one of my favorite features, because my kids are grown and in college now, but I remember how hard it was going from dinner time, homework to bed. And so what I love about, and we'll get to see it here in a second, is that we're constantly mimicking that light of day. So when you get to the dinner table, the light levels have fallen to a certain level. It's calmer. It's already telling us, relax. We're on our journey to bed. We've got to do a few things, but we're not going backwards. We're not going and trying to get overstimulated. We're on this trajectory to go to bed and get a good night's sleep. And in so many ways, this ability to kind of inform us of what's next, it just reminds me of like filmmaking. And I love the act of cinema, and I love the art form of cinema. And one of the coolest things to me is how you have this series of scenes that tell this really impactful story. In between the scenes, and as they change, the first thing that happens is that lighting is changing. And that lighting, if you notice, is also telling us some information. It's telling us to be sad, to be scary, to be anxious, to
Absolutely.
be excited. And it's sort of preparing in this very subtle way to be able to manage what's next. In my opinion, good automation is doing the exact same thing. It's telling us, okay, here we are. You know, like you said, this to me is telling us it's been a long day. You know, we just got home. Let's go sit on the couch, have a cup of tea, glass of wine, and just unwind and relax. And the lighting is telling us, hey, you're okay. You're supported in that endeavor. I don't have, like to your point, I don't have to think about it. It's already just coming up and it's telling me exactly what I need and how I need to be. I love that.
Jason, thank you so much. You and I can sit and talk about it all day long.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Design Tips and Sips. If you love it, please share it with your friends, family, neighbors, whoever you think can enjoy our content. Also, since we are global, make sure you ring the bell to know when is the next episode is dropping, because we are on the East Coast. And also make sure you're subscribing. And if you want to be a guest on our show, please check all the information in the About Us, and all the information about Lutron will be in the show notes. So until next time, this is Anna with Design Tips and Sips. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.